All right. All right, welcome back to the Review Zoo. We're here at New York Comic Con, and I am sitting down with comic book legend Chris Claremont. How you doing, Chris?
Fine.
Excellent. So I was reading over your bio in preparation to meet you. Yes, I know. One of the things I noticed was, according to it, it says that you studied directing and acting in college for some time.
Acting, directing, scene design, political theory, yeah, creative writing.
Do you think... Some people talk about Shakespeare in that he was an actor. He had an ear for the dialogue because of that experience. Do you think that your experience and training in that helped influence you as a writer when you came to comic books later on?
It would make sense. I have no idea. No, all your life experience hopefully will, cliche as it sounds, impact one hopes it will impact positively on your craft as a writer, but there's really no way of analytically knowing. I didn't take a course in how to compose a brilliant concept and bring it to execution. It was just like, okay, I can do this. But the truth also is that I started telling stories since I was a kid. You know, they were pretty awful, but they got better. So yes, it helped. How, I guess technically it made it for a structural improvement. Was it essential? I haven't the faintest idea.
When you first came to the X-Men, it wasn't one of necessarily the bigger books that they had in their stable. Were you? No.
That's why I got on it.
Exactly.
I could get on it. If it was a top book, they would have let someone with my experience anywhere near it.
So when you came to it, was it just because it's the book I can get on, or was there something about these X-Men, the concept, that you felt that you can do something with?
Well, I've been very, very peripherally involved with X-Men ever since one of the first story concepts I sold to Marvel was incorporated by Roy Thomas into... Sorry, there's a guy walking by in Union Jack underwear who really shouldn't. Sorry, Comic-Con can be an interesting, if not terrifying, place. But was coming up with the closing MacGuffin for one of the what turned out to be a classic story that he did with Neil Adams Roy Thomas did with Neil Adams during their brief tenure on the X-Men. And so I was lucky enough to be a little bit involved in that. And I've always liked the X-Men as a concept. And when the restart was set in motion, Len Wein was editor-in-chief. I was his associate editor, the #2 editorial guy at Marvel, which just so goes to show how shorthanded and limited our approach was in those days. And my desk was right outside his door, and I'd just be sitting there listening while Len and Dave Cockrum would think through the events, the characters, the structure of the Giant Size #1. And that was just totally cool. I liked the characters. I, again, would wander in and listen, and Len ended up using one of my ad hoc suggestions to help get rid of the island of Krakoa at the end of the story. So I was sort of there. And when Len had to give up a title when he went freelance right after that, the first issue came out, he had to give up something just because of time restraints, and that turned out to be X-Men. I'm sorry, for the opportunity to work with Dave Cockrum and on the characters that Dave had just created with Len, I didn't even have to hesitate for an instant. I just said, I want it. And Len foolishly, or whatever, said yes.
I think we're all glad that he did.
Well, Len's pissed off, but that's...
Well, the rest of us will be happy with him being upset. During your tenure in X-Men, you led a lot of very drastic changes for the team. And in X-Men's long history, they've been through a lot of various changes and shakeups. What is your favorite shakeup and change that you feel the X-Men have gone through that you didn't take part in creatively?
I have no idea. To be honest, when I left X-Men the first time, it was a fairly traumatic circumstance. I wasn't interested in looking at the book. It was 5 or 6 years before I came back to Marvel as editorial director. I was reading the concept as a boss, but I had no interest in writing it because I'd been there, done that. I was actually having a lot of fun writing the FF. So when I came back to the X-Men, I had been separated from it for the better part of 10 years, and it was not something. It wasn't my cup of tea. So I don't, a question like that is for the audience that's reading it now. Presumably the editors love it, otherwise they wouldn't do it. The writers love it because they would have done it. The acid test, the people who actually make the difference are the readers. And if the book is successful, they made the right call. So good for them.
Thank you so much for your time, and thank you so much for your years of work on a lot of characters that we all love.
Well, the operative response, and true as now as then, is I'm not done yet. Not even close.
Right. If anyone wants to see what's coming next for Chris Claremont, where can they find it?
Your guess is as good as mine. I'm not working in comics at the moment. My focus is on prose and film. So that's a lot more of a complicated reality than comics ever was.
Well, I'm looking forward to whatever comes out of all of that work. Thank you very much for your time. I am Tim Dowd. This is Chris Claremont, and we are on the Review Zoo.